Guys, we are so close to seeing the third round of stimulus checks because guess what? The bill just got approved yesterday. What's going on, you guys? It's Ron here with your third stimulus check update, stimulus package update, as well as related stimulus news update for Tuesday. It's February 23rd, and I've got a lot of information to share with you guys today. So first off, the package just got approved by the House of Representatives Budget Committee yesterday, and I'm going to give you guys all the details about that in today's video. Also, where would the $1.9 trillion virus relief bill go from here? I'm going to tell you guys what you can expect in the coming days. And finally, why is sending the $1,400 stimulus checks the right thing to do according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen? You definitely want to watch out for that. But first, I'd like to say welcome back to all my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. And for those who are brand new to the channel, my name is Ron. We cover all things personal finance, investing, how to generate multiple streams of income, and of course, stimulus check updates and stimulus package updates. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so that you know as soon as I release new videos and content. So just yesterday, the House of Representatives Budget Committee approved the $1.9 trillion virus relief bill, advancing one of Joe Biden's top priorities toward a full House vote expected later this week. That's right, guys. We are one step closer toward getting that stimulus bill signed into law. Now, this happened closely after the release of the full text of the 591-page bill. And sure, there might have been some opposition here and there. You know, like Republicans said that the proposal was too costly. They said it wasn't targeted to the people who needed the most help, and that it insufficiently prodded schools to reopen. They also mentioned that it was a partisan Democratic power play in order to ignore the GOP.
Now, critics say the plan is too big. Let me ask them a rhetorical question. What would you have me cut? What would you leave out?
But despite all that, the House still managed to ultimately move forward with one of the final steps in making a law out of the stimulus bill. Now, as a matter of fact, Representative John Yarmuth, chairman of the House Budget Committee, what he said before the vote was, "We are in a race against time. Aggressive, bold action is needed before our nation is more deeply and permanently scarred by the human and economic cost of inaction." I feel like these politicians are always so poetic. So obviously they went ahead and pushed through with it. And thanks to their commitment, we now have the first major vote for the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Now, the measure successfully passed the panel on a largely party line vote of 19-16. And that happened while Democrats continued to stand their ground against criticisms and issues such as raising the minimum wage and how much aid to actually funnel to struggling state and local governments. And to think that Democrats hold a mere 10-vote House majority, of course, that leaves very little room for defections, especially considering the fact that they face solid Republican opposition. But we all know, guys, that it's hard to get everybody on board with something. I think that pretty much summarizes all of 2020. And in fact, Representative Lloyd Doggett, a Texas Democrat, is said to have voted against the passage of the stimulus bill. And so I've decided to look for more details on this, and here's what I found. Yes, so first of all, it actually happened. It's confirmed that he joined the GOP lawmakers in voting against advancing the measure. Now keep in mind, he's a Democrat. However, Doggett's spokesman said after the vote against the package was an accident and that the congressman, and I quote, he supports the COVID-19 relief legislation. I got a big question for you guys. Comment below, how do you make the mistake of accidentally voting against something that you're supporting? I mean, I don't think it's that simple to just make an accident and vote against it. Comment below if you guys have some answers. I just don't see that happening. So this just shows that while this could be a mistake, this shows that the Democrats only had that 10-vote House majority, unlike the 50-50 position that they have in the Senate, where they have zero margin for error, and they would only be able to rely on Vice President Kamala Harris to provide the tie-breaking vote. Now that's really going to test the Democratic unity. Now it's been said that the Chamber's Budget Committee did what they can to advance the bill, as the Democrats rushed to beat the March 14th deadline with the aim of extending the unemployment program. So that's great, guys. But of course, I know that you guys are all curious about what's in the bill's main provisions. All right, so let me just kind of cover everything that you need to know about, right? So it will include the following. You've got a $400 per week unemployment insurance supplement that would run through August 29th. You've also got the extension of the pandemic era programs that essentially expands jobless benefits to gig workers, self-employed people. Of course, you got the $1,400 third stimulus check, direct payments for individuals who are making less than $75,000 per year, and for couples that are earning up to $150,000. Which ultimately phases out for individuals making $100,000 and couples earning $200,000 in income. Of course, that's based on your AGI, your adjusted gross income. You've also got relief for households of up to $3,600 per child over a year. So those are the monthly stimulus check payments that we were hearing about that would actually come from the child tax credits. There's also the gradual federal minimum wage increase to $15 per hour by 2025. You've also got the $20 billion for the national COVID vaccination program. You've got $170 billion billion for K through 12 schools and higher education institutions in order to reopen and provide student aid. And finally, the $350 billion to support state and local governments as well as tribal governments as well. So those are all of the inclusions of the recently passed stimulus relief bill. Sounds pretty good, huh? Now, I personally cannot wait to see this stimulus bill come about. But at this point, you might be thinking, now that it's approved by the House Budget Committee, where do we all go from here, right? And when can we expect the help to arrive? Well, here's what we know. Before heading to the House floor, where the Democrats, led by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, are hoping to pass it as soon as this weekend, the bill will then move through the House Rules Committee, which is essentially a formality. But after that, the House floor it is, and hopefully the bill would advance to gather votes from the full House later on this week. And then shortly after that, then the Senate would actually be able to vote on it. Now, in a recent statement from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she said we must act swiftly to put an end to this pandemic and to stem the suffering felt by so many millions. And clearly that's what they're trying to do right now, albeit incredibly slowly, but they are still trying to do it. Now, Democrats across the party have shown little indication that they're willing to break with the president's plan. And once everything's done, the 591-page bill would be the first piece of major legislation to be advanced under the Biden administration. And this, guys, would literally mark the first opportunity for Democrats to pass a law now that they have control of the House, a slight margin of control over the Senate, and now, of course, the presidency. But as always, they can't afford to be too complacent. We've still got a lot ahead of us, and who knows what the coming days could bring. Seems like something's always coming up, right? Now, because the full House is expected to vote in favor of this bill later this week, now the Senate proceeding is a whole different story. The bill could face a whole new round of hurdles in the next few days, so we definitely have to be ready for that one. I'm just keeping it real, guys. The Senate will conduct a review of their own, loaded with political haggling and bartering.
Well, John, you don't have to be a good pollster in Washington to ask the question, hey, would you like the federal government to send you a $3,500 check? Of course, the answer is going to be yes. If you said, do you want us to borrow that money from your children? Because that's what this is. I think their answer might be a lot differently. And especially if you told them a fact that there's over $1 trillion of money unspent from previous relief bills that were bipartisan. The money's still sitting in a bank account. And we're going to pass $1.9 trillion of additional spending to bail out failed states, to raise the minimum wage. What does that have to do with COVID? It should be focused on helping families and small businesses who are struggling, not bankrupting our children.
And it's safe to assume that the Senate Democrats will face some negotiations regarding budget restrictions, some of the bill's most substantial provisions, such as paid sick leave expansion, and of course the $15 per hour minimum wage, could be edited out of the final legislation, but obviously we have to wait and see on that one. But of course, all of that would have to happen before legislation would ultimately arrive on President Biden's desk. But while other provisions are at this point reliant on the say-so of the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, because of the budget restrictions, the lead economic official of the Biden administration, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, insists that for the case of the $1,400 stimulus checks, well, it should not be up for discussion anymore. And while talking about President Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package at a virtual event hosted by the New York Times just yesterday, she said that sending out the $1,400 stimulus checks to Americans who were hurt by the virus economic pandemic is just the right thing to do, and that she believes that we're going to be better off for it. Now again, that's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and I totally agree with that. We need the stimulus checks, guys, but of course we'll just have to wait and see whether members of Congress will actually listen to Janet Yellen and approve this provision, or whether instead they'll take the side of Republicans like House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, who urge party members to vote no to the provision and to the bill as a whole. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be jam-packed with more news over the next coming days. And now, as we inch closer to getting it all done, I just want to keep you guys up to date with all the latest details and the developments in the stimulus packages. So of course, if you want to stay up to date with the latest updates on stimulus check update news, stimulus update developments, definitely subscribe to the channel. Tap the notification bell so that you know as soon as I release a new update. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.